Hey guys, it's Julia and welcome to What the Book, and today I'm going to be talking about Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. Damn, this guy needs to make more books. So I got this book from the book depository during Booktubeathon, and I have been so excited to read this book ever since I saw it like floating around the booktube community, mostly from like Raylene, but it's kind of been floating around. And when I got it, I was so excited, and it just looks so nice, and I couldn't wait to read it, so I started it, and I was ready to go. Really enjoyed this book. I loved it through till the end. It was just so good. So the main character's name is Greg, and basically he is kind of socially invisible. He likes to be in people's good books, but he doesn't like to be anyone's friend. Even with Earl, he's not even friends with him really as much as he is business partners. And he makes movies with Earl, and he's been enjoying doing that ever since they were little and they watched this film together, which was like in German and had subtitles, and they were so enthralled by it that they decided to make their own movies. Now, Greg isn't exactly, a smooth kind of guy. He's rude and he's awkward, and he doesn't really I feel like he doesn't understand how to talk to people, like girls especially, without being hated. He's a funny guy, and he uses his humor a lot if he needs to. One thing that's interesting is most of this book is written as a normal book, but then some of this book is written almost as a script. So he kind of writes out what happened in script form. So there'd be like the play directions, and then there'd be the dialogue and those kind of things, and I thought that was really interesting to read through because A, it was quick to read, and B, I am very into theater, acting, drama, that sort of thing, so I really enjoyed that a lot. Also, during the book, he's always putting himself down, and he's very honest with everything he does. Like, he'll write a paragraph and he'll be like, but after that he's like, that paragraph was a moron, I don't know why I wrote that, that's awful, oh well. And he just kind of keeps everything in. It's kind of like an uncut version. He doesn't leave anything out. He's also always talking about, if this book were fiction, then this would happen and this would happen, but since it's not and this is reality, it's harder than that. And I liked that because it kind of made you be able to connect more with it, not because of the subject, but just because of the fact that he's like, it's more realistic than a normal book kind of can be sometimes. As much as it is an odd, weird book, it is definitely more relatable than a lot of books that I've read, which is very interesting because I wasn't expecting it to be totally relatable. So basically, Greg has a history of these girls that he's tried to impress, never worked. One of them's name was Rachel, and his mom comes up to him one day and tells him that Rachel has leukemia, and he's kind of like, well, okay, I haven't really talked to her in a while, we go to the same school, but whatever, what do you really want me to do about that? And his mom wants him to go hang out with Rachel and try to make her feel better. She's like, Rachel could really use a friend right now, and he's kind of like, well, I haven't seen her in such a long time, but okay. So he begins hanging out with Rachel. He points out multiple times in this book, he's like, I know I should feel bad for her, and I know we should probably be, in love by now, and I should express my feelings towards her, but once again, this is a real thing. This isn't like fiction, so he's kind of like, and you probably think going into this, it's like, oh no, he's gonna end up in love with this character, and it's like, just kidding, no he isn't. He doesn't want to be in love with her at all. Honestly, I believe, as much as he doesn't say it in the book, he does love her, whether it be as a sister figure or as a friend or as, a girlfriend. I still think he does have a loving tenderness towards her, What kind of loving tenderness that is, I don't know. How Greg was always able to make Rachel laugh through everything, and as we progressively go through the book and she starts to go to chemo and she starts getting, you know, sicker, lack of laughter is noticeable, and he talks about it, and then you realize that you're like, yeah, she isn't laughing at his jokes like she used to, and she can force out a laugh sometimes, but it's not really her thing. And it's really interesting to see how that develops from being someone who laughs, snorting, crying, snot, laughter all the time to like not. This is such a hilarious book. This book is so funny. It's like rude and imaginative and weird. It's so funny. Like, there are so many random parts that are just like, what is that? Like, especially with Earl, because Earl is kind of less educated almost. He just says the weirdest things, and you're like, where did that even come from? But it makes you laugh because it's so random and weird and rude and crazy that it just makes you laugh. Blurb on the front says, "What's crazy is how moving it becomes in spite of itself." And I totally agree with this, because you don't expect this book to be moving, but at the end you realize you're so attached to these characters that you can, and especially with Greg, you've begun to be able to understand how he's feeling through all of this book, and it just kind of hits you. It's kind of touching, almost, in a way. Another thing about this book is, even though there's a character with cancer, it is not a cancer book. And the only other book with cancer that I've really read is The Fault in Our Stars, which I absolutely love that book. That is an amazing book, but this is a totally different take on it because the cancer is somewhat of a subplot, and you don't really, like, it plays a part in the story, but it doesn't play as big of a part in the story. It's not like you are constantly like, oh no, poor Rachel, she has leukemia, blah blah blah, because it's like a side note that, oh yeah, she has cancer, until like the end. And you know, it makes it more funny, and you can't really go up to someone, like someone asks what you're reading and you're like, oh, I'm reading a funny book that's about cancer. They're gonna be like, what are you saying? But this book isn't about cancer, so you don't have to say that. So you don't have to get weird looks in public when you say something like that. Why would you say something like that? That sounds really weird. Overall, this book really was a great book. It was a really interesting read. I really loved the funny parts throughout the whole thing, and I like how it was like conflicting funny parts and then sad parts, and it was a lot of both, which was really nice because, you know, I don't know about you, but I don't really like reading books that are all sad or all funny, so having the good healthy mix of both was very nice. And this book, not as many people have read this book, it seems, because I only heard of it through BookTube, and even then there's not like as many people talking about it. I think a lot of people should, I think everyone should read this book if you're not, you know, like 12 or something, because it does have a lot of language and it's a very blatant book. There's nothing held back in this book. There's no filter on this book. It's like all thoughts are poured out. Everything he's thinking is just poured out into stupid little paragraphs. I'm saying that because he's called them stupid little paragraphs, not because I think they're stupid, just in his own words. It's very funny, and then it gets sad and moving, and then you don't know what to feel. And I really enjoyed this book, and I believe that you guys should all go read it because it is a really great read, and it's not like super long either, which was really nice, and also you won't want to put it down because it's funny, and it doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat per se, but it definitely kept me interested through the entire book. One thing I'm just gonna say right now is that there were several parts in the book when I'm like, there's probably gonna be a happy ending, you know? Maybe there'll be a happy ending, even though he's always like, you know, in reality, blah 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 blah, maybe there'll be a happy ending. And in the end, it's not incredibly sad or anything, but it's not like a happy ending. So there's that. And I don't mind that at all, because a lot of books have happy endings nowadays, or really sad endings, but this was like the book. It was a very healthy mix of both, and I like how that happened. So I'm definitely going to reread this one again. This is probably one of my reads that I'm going to just go to and read and like have in my backpack. Kind of like The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I'll have this in my backpack when I'm in school and they're like, pull out a book, and be like, oh, pull out this book. Or even when they don't say pull out a book, I'll be like, oh, pull out this book. Throwback to when my French teacher took away one of my books because I was reading. Whoops. I hope you guys pick it up because it deserves so much more attention than it has, and I love you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are having an amazing summer even though it's almost over, and I love you so much. Bye!